The three senior elders now understand the purpose of the seventh young master. As for Tamat and Gayet, let it be. But how could he convince the two eccentric beings of the sect? Very clever, my disciple. In this situation, no one has the right to oppose hastily. It only undermines one's credibility. Lai Ho Min understands. If they agree, then it's certain that the others will encounter countless disadvantages. All three of you acknowledge the seventh young master as the junior sect master. So, why do the ninth and 11th elders say anything? Taha has acknowledged that the seventh young master has enough qualifications to hold the position of junior sect master. In the council, there is no other way. The rule is that if three elders agree, everything will go as desired. The protagonist is seeing things with anger somewhere. His aura keeps emanating. While the sect master is considering handing over power to him, it turns out that Vu Tran Guyan, the first senior elder, is quite furious. He agreed immediately, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Because there is too much aura. Taho Fap has to suppress it with strong measures. Right in your aura, he says, while the sect master is in the grand hall, behaving so carelessly. The tree is too tall. I can't bear it anymore. Do you think I don't know your tricks? These words are for Thien Pham, so he understands the meaning. But the more the old man acts like this, the more pleased he is with him. Vu Tran Guyan just wishes he could chop Thien Pham into pieces. But above, the one with the most influential voice everyone has to demonstrate authority to suppress. Seeing the sect master almost exploding, the first senior elder quickly kneels down and apologizes for his disrespectful behavior, saying, "Please forgive these actions. It's enough. Everyone returns to your positions." The sect master says in a commanding tone, "Everyone must remain silent and obey his words." Both the Hofap and the senior elders remain silent, without any resistance. In Vu Tran Guyan's heart, he really wants to tear Thien Pham apart, but he also adds fuel to the fire by taunting him, causing the old man to turn back. The first senior elder needs to be confident because he thinks the sect master may not be able to withstand the ninth and 11th young masters. The technique he's about to use is the one used to assassinate Bakengo, the leader of the Dark Devil sect, in the 6th test. Now, Vu Tran Guyan has returned to that state. Being passive due to the surprise, he's aiming for the fatal point that Hukim and Takim can't defeat. And that's when he returns to the dominant position. The first senior elder is confused by the relatively vital points. Not only that, but the knife attacks are also aimed at the vital positions because he has read the secrets of the sword techniques. So this is relatively easy. Perhaps Thien Pham's opponent hasn't faced such a master before, so he didn't understand anything. This knife technique is too illustrative, full of wine and poeticism, like a dragon ascending to heaven. That's how it is. The first senior elder of the celestial demon sect was beaten to a pulp by him. The sect master lets it happen without intervening. Now the senior elders on the opposing side are very discouraged because their strongest member has been overwhelmed. They looked at their juniors showing talent, and their master's dream has become very surprising. How did he learn the Phi Long Dao technique so perfectly? Why use such a sophisticated manner? Clearly, I've only just seen this type for the first time, and the situation revolves solely around the understanding of the supreme Tao of the extreme divine sword. How the sect leader has researched and mastered it is truly remarkable for someone who has left the sect. Even down here, the Malaki sword still quietly contemplates everything, demonstrating the grandeur of the great Dharma. He seems to be someone very keen on understanding everything after being absent for a while. So he transmitted sound reminders of the great Dharma, then privately arranged meetings to express his thoughts. Using this gathering for such purposes is indeed skillful. Surely the young master's astuteness will be recognized. He has subdued the eldest disciple, so we must find a way to leverage the power of the occult sect into the strength of the junior sect leader. Actually, the sect leader didn't do anything without reason. He wanted to assess the true strength of the young master to see if he deserved the position of junior sect leader. With this rate of development, within the next 10 years, the top martial artists of Central Nguyen will undergo changes. It could also pose a threat to him. Nothing is more useless than a difficult-to-resolve loss, so he observed further. 4th and 5th disciples clamored to reclaim justice for the primordial immortal alliance, but he didn't bother to respond. However, it was quite painful to hear. Well, according to the rules of the sect, he had to temporarily act this way because his life was threatened, but I unintentionally caused disrespect in the main hall, so I hope the sect leader will forgive me. Tang Tunu knew that such actions could make the head of the Celestial Devil Sect uncomfortable due to encroaching on his authority. Lai Ho Min had already reduced tension by rushing to assist the sect leader, claiming that the powerless gods couldn't protect the young master when threatened, thus allowing such an incident to occur. But how did the great Dharma help him? Could it even draw him back to the sect? Perhaps this incident occurred because of the spontaneous action of the eldest disciple, so we'll ignore it all. Remember, disrespect in the main hall is a challenge to my authority, so I won't forgive anyone for it in the future. This time, out of respect, the sect leader didn't reproach anything. But there won't be a next time. Anyway, it's within my predictions. Finally, the Celestial Stream has agreed to appoint him as the junior sect leader because they've seen his capabilities. This indeed frightened the heroes and made the sect leader recognize talented individuals. None of the main adversaries dared to voice any objections. At this point, it's decided that Thien Pham will be the successor to the position of junior sect leader of the Celestial Devil Sect. Everyone cheered loudly. The repetitive phrase was repeated dozens of times. Unexpectedly, after 500 years, a junior sect leader from outside the 6 great sects has emerged. From this moment on, the Celestial Devil Sect might undergo unforeseen changes. Perhaps only 4 sections of the 6 great sections will remain. Finally, after much effort, the plan of avenging past grudges succeeded. Thien Pham decided to publish slowly for the grudges and hatred of the past. As he's currently dealing with the people of the Martial Arts Alliance, the inauguration ceremony for the junior sect leader won't take place. The good thing for him is that he'll hold both the position of senior disciples simultaneously, unlike his predecessors. The main character has the privilege to attend important meetings and contribute his opinions like other senior disciples. However, the remaining 4 sects were strongly objected and were dismissed by the sect leader. With that settled, the great Dharma requested to move on to other tasks. Thien Pham noticed that Nai Tu was injured, so he advised him to rest and recuperate for a while. Nano's healing was too quick, so he couldn't feel any pain. He followed the orders for now. Whatever happens later, he could consult Nano. It's strange why the main character frequently approaches him. When the subordinates saw the sect leader returning, they hurriedly rushed back to inquire about what had happened in the main hall. While they were considering whether to give it a try, a female disciple hastily returned to report that the junior sect leader, Jiang Ho Vi, had regained consciousness. Thien Pham rushed to the sick room to check on him. As he opened the door, he saw his only beloved, whose voice was no longer authoritative like that of a junior sect leader. Jing Jia-han was also surprised to meet his once-defeated disciple after many years of separation. Thien Pham was still a child in his eyes. When facing his most trusted protector, he realized that Thien Pham had truly grown up. His reputation had been heard far and wide. Perhaps he couldn't help the disciples anymore, so why did he say that? He must stay by his side and protect him. Now that Thien Pham had become a useless cripple and his cultivation was destroyed, he couldn't bear to let him suffer like this for the rest of his life. He had taken care of him since he was a child and had taught him a lot. He couldn't let him suffer such hardships in his remaining life. To restore his cultivation, Nano would need a lot of time, so he couldn't help the master immediately. However, the first thing he could do was to restore his broken teeth to make eating easier. He will provide the necessary data to proceed for the master. I didn't expect you to possess such incredible technique. Restoring intricate weavings is more difficult than reconstructing teeth for Jiang's bodyguard. It's essential and practical. Moreover, Thien Pham also hinted at delivering good news to Jiang Jia-han, letting him know that we have won the inheritance competition at the demonic sect. Not only that, but we have also officially become the junior sect leader of the Thien Ma Thin sect. It's all true. How the young master has become a junior sect leader already. Upon hearing this news, he became ecstatic to an indescribable degree. Nano reported that due to excessive joy, it led to a lack of blood flow to the brain. It's unbelievable that this could cause someone as strong-willed as Jiang to faint. In the future, we need to be mindful of such actions. A while later, the 3 elders finished their meeting and returned to congratulate him on fulfilling his wish. Only then did the loyal subordinates learn of the matter. They were all astonished. How could this be possible? If it weren't for the words of the elder chief, the sect leader would have already ascended to his position with great prestige. Why didn't he mention his joy earlier? Today is indeed a joyful day, and we should celebrate with a grand feast. Thap Nat Elder reminded them to set aside that matter for now, as Thien Pham would have to entertain guests at the palace tonight. The guests are from the Martial Alliance, who had just realized that their leader has changed significantly. Now, they have the leisure to teach martial arts anymore. Thien Pham understood that Thien Moth and Sect wanted to establish friendly relations with the people in central Guyana, just as he speculated during the meeting at the palace. The Sect leader has decided to ally with Vo Lam Bin. Most agree with this decision, so the Sect leader can only approve it. During the recent mission of our Sect, unexpected events occurred. Both our forces in Anhui province and our Jiang disciples were defeated. It wasn't the work of evil sects, but rather some mysterious faction unknown to Thien Moth and Sect. Despite the countless experts, our Sect was defeated. It's unbelievable. In Triad Jiang, there are a total of 9 branches allocated throughout the city. Anhai has 15 branches, all managed by the Nam Kong family, led by Nam Kong Hai, a martial arts master. Despite their strong defense, their strategic positions have made them vulnerable to attacks. These provinces are where the 3 major forces intersect, and conflicts arise continuously. They have always been cautious of each other. Recently, both Anhui and Zhejiang have been simultaneously attacked by a mysterious faction. However, Thien Ma and Sect has dispatched experts to investigate, suspecting Vo Lam Min's involvement. However, after 2 weeks, the investigation team completely disappeared. Therefore, when anxiety was high, Vo Lam Min's people were sent to Thien Ma and Sect to express their anger. They intended to execute their envoy immediately. However, after hearing the whole story, everyone in the palace was astonished and frightened. It turned out that the branches of the Martial Alliance in Anhui and Zhejiang were also attacked. Nam Kong's family, including Nam Kong Hai, was slaughtered. Both sides suspected each other, but fortunately, Thien Moth and Zhao and Vo Lam Alliance sat down to discuss. A covenant of alliance between the Sect and the Alliance was formed. Both sides agreed to cease fighting and investigate the situation together. Vo Lam Alliance continued to send experts to the Sect to propose a cooperation agreement. Both sides selected their top experts to launch a comprehensive counterattack. This is how the Sect leader and the elders have been absent for so long. Although they outnumbered the mysterious Sect, they couldn't defeat them, as the young master witnessed at the palace. All the elders bore injuries, with the most severe suffering the loss of the 7th elder. It's unclear which force could cause such serious damage to both sides. Thien Pham knew that tonight's meal was to boost morale after the recent failure. Ultimately, it's about increasing the influence between our Sect and Vo Lam after the battle. After investigation, both sides identified the third force, which is the Kukdao faction. However, why did the head of the Sect react so strangely? When the junior Sect leader, who is the one we've been waiting for, appeared, he seemed uninterested. What is he worried about? His concern is now about the Kukdao faction. Although this matter wasn't clarified at the meeting, a senior from Kukdao faction, Luk Vomon, cut off the hand of the 7th elder and took out one of Hugo Fap's eyes during the attack on the Jiang's residence. We don't know their whereabouts, so we have to act discreetly, but they seem to be waiting for us there. Although we had the advantage in numbers, our section employed a central strategy, so we could respond immediately. Not long after, 3 Supreme Masters appeared. At that time, everyone thought we could counter the Kukdao faction, but they easily killed the elders and Sect leaders. Finally, the elders had to intervene directly. After a struggle, the 7th elder passed away, and the 5th elder lost his hand, collapsing under pressure. Due to the urgency, both I and the Sect leader had to step in. While not much better, we reluctantly managed to hold them off. The opponents we faced were experts in swordsmanship, formation techniques, and trickery. They act as if these extreme martial arts were ingrained in their blood. While narrating, the Sword of Annihilation also displays wounds on their bodies, all created by a martial art named Lai Ho Min. Seeing this, Lai Ho Min himself felt afraid. Why do these wounds look more like they were inflicted by a sword rather than a blade? He thought. Those wounds resembled the techniques of the extreme knife faction too much. If that person could employ blade techniques instead of sword techniques, then my fate would surely be similar to that of the 7th elder that night. A considerable number of guests arrived for the banquet, including representatives from Vo Lam Min. All the prominent figures in our sect had arrived early because they disliked the sect leader. Thane Pham appeared quite despondent but still had to sit next to the elder chief. The elder chief hinted at Headmaster Yen's lackluster attire, which diminishes the dignity of his position. Later, Bong Chidan, one of the disciples of the 17 Grand Masters of Vo Lam Min, entered. He was also the head disciple of the Ho Sun faction, Bong Chin, and was proud because he was the first beauty of Central Mayan. Some even speculated that he was more beautiful than the Empress of the West. Due to the lively atmosphere, Vo Lam Min had to intervene to stop the chatter. Then, the second military advisor of the Vo Lam Alliance, Kat Tahai, paid his respects to the sect leader, hoping for forgiveness for his earlier rudeness. The sect leader had sent a distinguished guest, so he apologized once again. However, to everyone's surprise, the representative from the main faction of Vo Lam Alliance was young and talented. With a youthful appearance, red lips, and bright eyes, seems around 20 years old. Everyone in our sect was amazed at such youthfulness. Long Jia felt proud because she was considered the most beautiful woman in Central Doan, while others believed she was the reincarnation of a goddess. However, the sudden action of the black cloak belonging to Vo Lam Min kept observing, not making any move. His gaze was fixed upward. At that moment, he took the opportunity to chat and interact with others. Suddenly, he knocked over a wine jug on the table, and the sound reverberated as if an electric current ran through the military advisor's body. She seemed to be controlled as she stood up with an unconscious expression, then walked straight to Thane Pham without greeting the elder chief. Yin Mukho, may I give up my seat for you? What was she intending with this action? Even the people from Vo Lam felt embarrassed. The beautiful woman sat down naturally and stared directly at Nam Chin. I've admired you for a long time, and I've wanted to meet you, she said in a casual tone. Long Jia frowned at the military advisor's inappropriate behavior, not only for her words but also for her intended familiarity. Although Thane Pham was handsome and charming, his nature was not easy. However, the more he refused, the more aggressive the other party became. This situation makes it difficult for the main character to handle. The military advisor kept scrutinizing. Nam Chin's mastermind didn't blink. He had asked Nano to check and found signs of being hypnotized. He was planning to transmit all the data and brains when the military advisor behaved strangely, grabbing a bowl and intending to smash it into Thane Pham's face. The representatives of Vo Lam became panicked, testifying this, but there was nothing horrifying, so I easily subdued them. They were confused in their minds, not understanding why someone was controlling Kat Tahai like this. Although we didn't know who the offender was, the reason they wanted to do this remained a mystery. Nano, is there any way to help her escape from this situation? Simply hypnotizing the subject actively to dispel the control will wake her up. Or, simpler yet, we can use electrical waves to stimulate the central nervous system of the hypnotized individual. The second method sounds simpler, so the male lead immediately uses his one-handed control to restrain the beautiful women from the Trung Guyan group, while some in the group quickly and softly plead, asking the young sect leader to stop. Why dare you attack him? Please explain, they said. What is the intention of our military advisor's actions? The mysterious figure still calmly sits and watches the show. Is it just to add fuel to the fire? Alright, both sides will fight until they break off the engagement. Despite the objections, the male lead still instructs Nano to proceed. The energy of tens of kilovolts is being transmitted to the military advisor's head, causing her intense pain, and she now returns to an unconscious state. What are you doing, young sect leader? Fourth Elder Quat speaks up, his intention clearly to provoke conflict between the two sides. After a while, she gradually regained consciousness. Mo Long hastily approaches, worried about the beauty. What happened? Could it be because of excessive drinking? He wonders aloud, frowning at the bewildering situation. His own scheme seems to have been thwarted by another, as a voice reminds him to quickly implement Plan B. Despite numerous attempts, they continue to be countered. Another voice transmits a reminder. Quickly use the diversion plan. Several voices urge. The young master Mo, who is holding the beauty, suddenly stops, his eyes darkening upon hearing the sound. Then the change is revealed. The expression on his face shifts to an attack on Thane Pham, claiming he took advantage of the military advisor's comfort. You vile scum, how dare you? I'll take your life with my own hands. But the counter has already escaped. controlling that rudeness. Why did this young disciple suddenly act? Do they really think we're turning a blind eye? Mo Long cannot move, only continuously yelling in chaos. Yin Elder has to tap him to calm him down. Observing this action, the male lead can't understand why he suddenly became aggressive. So, what's going on? Do you still remember the strange actions of the military advisor? They've set a trap to disrupt the alliance between our sect and the Ming, haven't they? What should we do in this situation? Tian Pham asks. The elders in our sect and the distinguished guests should quickly rush to prevent those who haven't been mesmerized yet. Those who have been mesmerized. What about them? You don't have to worry about that. I'll take care of it, the male lead assures, flying out to settle the chaos. The elder of Hosun agrees, wanting the sect and others to help quickly. He and a few others take the initiative to go outside, but without the orders of the sect leader, the elders cannot act. They are furious and speechless. Who dares to be so arrogant right at the sect's palace? The situation outside is very unstable. Just looking down from above makes me uncomfortable. Tian Pham feels itchy eyes from above. He can't distinguish who is mesmerized, so he asks Nano to activate enhanced visual mode to make it easier. He also requests it to mark everyone who is mesmerized so they can be shocked immediately when touched. He moves down to help those who are mesmerized, all of whom lose their will simultaneously. After that, everything is resolved. Seeing the male lead's skill, the military advisor admires him. That person's talent is the current leader of the demonic sect. Later, the victims regain consciousness, and the culprit is furious. What kind of magic did the male lead use that made everyone immune to his expressions, making him quickly aware? He discovered the hiding place and was caught off guard, unable to resist, and was controlled, his body crushed and dragged away for a long time. Now there's no way out, so he just weakly raises his fist to resist. But how can he do those trivial tricks against Tian Pham, who is determined to cause trouble right in the sect? Do you think you can escape unscathed from this? The elder of the Bong sect observes the handling of the situation by the current sect leader of the demonic sect, which is indeed resolute and cruel. Tian Pham grabbed the culprit by the collar and was trying to force him to confess the reason. With no other way out, the culprit was contemplating suicide to protect the information, but this method is outdated. You bunch of little ones are planning suicide. If it doesn't work, what then? Right after speaking, he used his divine power to immediately pull out the tooth containing the poison, and then he had to deal with your big brother. We'll talk later. Indeed, the plan of this group had been prearranged, so they were infiltrating the demonic sect, causing a horrifying scene. Some survivors were still trying to resist in the storage chamber. Because the enemy accidentally triggered the trap, the entrance inside was blocked, but those outside continued to break in. Despite their fear, the survivors were confident because the Tongat thatch barrier was 3 times stronger than other barriers. Their counterattacks gradually became faster and more intense, causing the entire chamber to shake. It was truly extraordinary power. Even though it was cracked, it collapsed completely. At the same time, the sect master and his subordinates were rushing back to the demonic sect. As they approached, explosions rang out, and it seemed like the library was about to collapse. Ho Min couldn't wait any longer. The door to the storage chamber had been completely destroyed, and some unfamiliar faces were coming out. They had probably finished their task. Fortunately, they hadn't had time to understand what was happening when both sides faced each other. They were the martial arts guards he had seen in the martial arts procession before, but his luck was certainly not that of the martial arts guards. The scar-faced one seemed pleased. Finally, a worthy opponent in the demonic sect, he said. After speaking, all the sect heads were present, each of them surprised because there were only 2 people who could do this. He walked out from the basement. Why did you do this? The sect master asked, but the scar-faced one remained expressionless, even making uncomfortable remarks. If you want to know, just go down and check the corpses of your comrades, he said. Ho Min stopped his subordinates from falling into the trap and agitating them. He understood their purpose was just the storage chamber below. The scar-faced one continued to order his subordinates. Let's take care of it now. Follow me. He gestured for them to go ahead. Remember the way out, right? The sect master heard this and immediately ordered the sect heads to rush up to silence those who hadn't been mesmerized yet. However, one of the scar-faced ones couldn't stand it and used his internal force to counterattack, releasing millions of bursts of energy around him. It seemed the strength of your family wasn't that great after all, overwhelmed in every aspect. If you keep defending, it won't be effective. The Dame Kiem Fap technique was released directly ahead, and that's when we saw your capabilities. Although angry, you look very fierce, but you were all defeated before you could even form a defense. All weaknesses were exploited, visible, making Homan's technique completely confused. He continuously attacked positions where he couldn't see. The scar-faced one's movements were extremely fast and powerful. Dozens of punches were relentlessly directed at Homan. Finally, with one more blow, he accumulates enough energy in an instant. Homan was thrown backwards because he had just taken the blow from the first elder a few days ago, so maybe the Sect master hadn't fully recovered yet. Your family turned out to be from the Kukdao Luk Vomon. Why would you think that? Although you used a special technique, it's very similar to a sword technique. Thovai. I am the Dao Qian Mon Chutu Dean of the Kukdao Luk Vomon. Despite using all my strength, my internal injuries are still not healed, so I can't move. Maybe this Sect master intends to destroy the Dame Kiem Fap technique, so there's no need to hide his identity. Something flew quickly towards their location. Tu Hien sensed and had captured that thing. His eyes broadened in astonishment. What he held in his hand wasn't just anything, but the head of his subordinate. He immediately recognized the person with the alias who had appeared. It was none other than Thien Pham. Seeing the Sect master, Lai Homan sobbed slightly. If he's truly the Sect master, he should have been present at the inner hall banquet. I can't let them ruin the plan. Well, in that case, I have to kill you to escape. But the main character couldn't let him do that easily. He rushed forward to stop the killing of his subordinates. Tu Hien was quite surprised because in the demon sect, very few people could resist this move. However, he just stopped for a moment and switched to attacking Thien Pham instead. This was just a diversionary tactic. If he were to be defeated, his protective talisman would kill him. Thinking up to this point, he reluctantly used both his internal and external skills to try to gain the upper hand. Indeed, only this way could he push back his opponent. Nano continued his work, evenly distributed his attacks, restoring internal injuries for Tu Hien's master. Tu Hien smiled satisfactorily, finally finding a worthy opponent. When asked about the condition of his subordinates' injuries, he found out Lai Homan was still okay. Take this with you and call the sect leader and the elders here. They are at the gate of the demon sect. Leave this one to me, hurry. Tu Hien quickly ran off to call for reinforcements, but the others couldn't easily accept defeat. He thought he could escape from his grasp. The main character also had to chase after to protect the escape of his subordinate. Tu Hien kept avoiding, not wanting to engage in a fight yet. He couldn't get close, so he sent out his subordinates to shoot down Lai Homan. In just a moment, the main character's energy dissipated the opponent's energy, injuring the leader of the sword sect. You're just a mere pawn. Don't pay attention to anything else because I am your opponent, he said. A lot of internal energy emanated from Tu Hien, making him appear quite uncomfortable about Thien Pham's resilience, wondering why he wasn't affected by internal injuries. I can't ignore this anymore. Perhaps now is the time. Thien Pham murmured. Regardless, that person must be related to the extreme sword sect. If you know him, then of course, the demon sect is our enemy. From afar, there were many movements of troops from the heavenly demon sect, getting closer to where the two were. The southern demon sect was almost surrounded by masked guards. We can't easily escape. In that case, I have to take you as a hostage to escape from here. Do you think you have the ability to do so? Tu Hien immediately jumped forward. The technique he used made him realize it was one of the extreme Dao's moves. This technique had been completely legalized, but its power was no different. If you wanted to neutralize it, you could only use the 24 Deaths sword. Although knowing this, in practice, the power of the 24 Deaths was gradually weakening. Due to too many thoughts, he had not paid attention. He was trying to find his opponent's weakness but reveal a flaw while using a transformation technique. He successfully approached Tu Hien but couldn't keep up with Thien Pham's pace, so he temporarily wielded a few swords to push back his opponent. Do you think using a sword can make it difficult for me? Tu Hien's punches became faster and more powerful, proportional to the increasing force, making it difficult for Thien Pham to hold on. Although quite strong, he was one step ahead in every aspect. It's unclear why the main character was constantly passive in this fight. Perhaps he had never encountered an opponent with both strength and high morale. In terms of experience, Tu-heen could also outsmart him, so him taking the upper hand wasn't surprising. Being beaten up was just inevitable. However, this beating was relentless. He hadn't died yet. Right, I should praise you for what you've done. But with the sword technique of the sword demon, it's no match for me. He's known this technique for a long time. Now the result is clear. The demon sect can win against our sect. Don't resist in vain anymore. Just obediently follow me. This statement seemed to touch Thien Pham's pride. He threw the sword in his hand down. You said our sect can't win. Tu-heen noticed a strange expression and quickly focused on his opponent. He rolled his eyes very quickly to observe carefully. It seems there have been many changes. The simple is that the wounds from before are no longer present. How could his wounds heal so quickly? Surely he's the most dangerous person in the demon sect. I must kill him before he fully recovers. He put all his strength into dealing with Thien Pham quickly. His appearance now no longer shows mockery. Instead, there were a few submissive groans. The sword technique was incredibly mystical. Just accepting the last ones to join in the destruction of the relationship between the sect and the martial arts alliance had died. This was the result of insulting my section. Before that, many martial artists of Volam and disciples of the Devil Sect were searching everywhere in the Devil's Den. The sect leader himself was involved in this. Li Hua Ming, after escaping, quickly reported to the Celestial Court without bothering to inquire about the health of the Gordian. The sect leader only asked about the current whereabouts of the enemy before the secret manual. The junior sect leader and the disciples of the Extreme Dao School were battling. He had just mentioned this when Gordian Fap lost consciousness. Upon examination, it was discovered that his internal injuries were too severe. The Celestial Court immediately changed course to inform everyone to gather at the Great Fap Library. However, Guardian Fap rushed out to stop the sect leader, saying, "Please halt. What are you doing? Why dare to block my path?" The sect leader, showing his authority, had his subordinates bow to him before proceeding. Understanding the intentions of the Gordian, there was no longer an angry expression on his face. Both the 4th elder and the 10th elder said, "Let's go together." After hearing this, the two immediately followed to the Great Fap Library. Now only the sect leader remains. He looked back at where Gordian Fap was, but Li Ho-min had not yet presented the head of the deputy master of the Extreme Dao School. Meanwhile, the Devil's Sword moved quickly to assist the junior sect leader. Later, he was on top of the library tower. Although wearing a mask, his expression showed surprise at what he saw below. It seemed that he was too focused and didn't notice being observed. Everything was now within the sight of the Devil's Sword. The opponent's face still shows fear when seen again. Then, Guardian Fap examined him more closely. He observed the opponent's movements and how Thien Pham ended his opponent. There were countless vague thoughts in his mind. Why did the junior sect leader use the black sword? Was that the one? Now is the time to face reality. Having finished his task, he disposed of the evidence immediately. Then, he was started to realize he was being followed. Turning around, he saw Guardian Fap standing there, seems to have seen everything. Luckily, the old man came late. Although angry, he was surprised that the junior sect leader had defeated a master of the Extreme Dao School without injury. At that moment, Yen Makha hurriedly inquired. Now that the Devil's Sword had descended, the junior sect leader's voice reassured him that he was safe. Guardian Fap thanked him for his concern. Sub-masked guardians had entered the library gate, followed by the sect leader. Despite his severe injuries, Thien Pham had to go through the procedure before the most authoritative person in the sect. Although the Guardian clan had fulfilled the will of the Sword Devil, the Great Fap was still the right hand of the sect leader. Those days, he was informed of what he saw. When he arrived, the junior sect leader had already dealt with the master of the Extreme Dao School, and the Celestial Court began to examine his son. Looking at the wound, it was not just a stab, but seemed like multiple sword wounds combined, hiding his true talent. How could one underestimate Thien Pham? The Devil's Sword didn't hold back on the matter of the Heavenly Devil's Sword art. He and the sect leader went down to the Lu Hall to check. How those wretches targeted here was unclear. The Great Fap remained silent, forcing the sect leader to use harsh words to repeat the question. After a while, the Guardian finally nodded and answered. The celestial court then continued down. He passed by some scattered remains without noticing, but only the devil's sword detected it. Could the secret manual of the sword devil be completely revealed? So the sect leader didn't know this place. That's why he had been resentful from evening till now, secretly. Even I didn't know. So if the enemy knew, then they had underestimated me. Later, the others were also summoned to the scene. I thought they were targeting the secret manual, but it turned out they were after the mark of the extreme knife. So they knew about the 20 swords of death. Why would the descendants of the sword devil want to take the blood sword? What exactly is the purpose of this extreme knife school? That very night, the inner court of the heavenly devil sect had become a chaotic mess of corpses of dead martial artists. The entire force had been mobilized to search for the remnants of the enemy throughout the night, but except for those 4, no suspicious traces were found. The situation had stabilized, so everyone was escorted to the Yen feast. The righteous faction was discouraged as it was too dangerous here. We had already said everything we knew. The devil sect also had to come up with a conclusion somehow. I hope you will patiently wait a little longer. Listening to the words of the military advisor, everyone had to nod in agreement and alertness. However, this woman only realized countless hidden motives before being enchanted. After failing to regain consciousness in the attempt to reclaim Tinanhui province, and while returning south to support 2 other lords, suddenly we were ambushed by a group of unknown assailants. When we regained consciousness, we found ourselves traveling with the main martial arts group until we were no longer enchanted. I always thought that our enemies were our own guards martial artists. They targeted someone secretly moving for the benefit of the Alliance. Only those involved in the Council of the Lords could know. It's very likely that among the 17 Alliance Lords of Volem, there are enemies. They should have established the Alliance smoothly and returned, but suddenly there was an attack on the junior sect leader, so it's unlikely that I will be released easily. Bak Trung Vu is nearby, also diligently checking the health of the injured. Not only that, but he also wants to examine the bodies of those who were enchanted. I thought they might have disguised themselves due to being enchanted, but apart from slightly slow heartbeats, there were hardly any issues. Several other physicians also continuously ran to report the situation, finding no poison or mixed drugs in the food and drink during the banquet. The junior sect leader said everyone had been enchanted, but it seems his speculation is incorrect. Just as Thien Pham was mentioned, he appeared here. The two took the opportunity to greet each other superficially and inquire if there had been any progress. Everything had been checked, but it doesn't seem to be due to any kind of medicine as you mentioned in the food and drink. Both drinks did not contain any drugs, just a simple clap of hands could enchant everyone. It's really horrifying. Sorry, but could you check again? Bak Trung Vu. He shook his head in annoyance because he had already done it 10 times. The junior sect leader is indeed a meticulous person because he is not sure, so he appears very cautious. Could they not detect anything in the food or drinks? Why could they be enchanted by this? But as soon as he looked at it, he also understood. When eating, the utensils will touch the mouth, immediately requesting Nano to check if there was any poison or toxin applied to the utensils. Several physicians stood by, unable to understand what the junior sect leader was doing. What exactly is he doing? What is he doing with the cup and utensils like that? Perhaps they don't know that touching is necessary for Nano to analyze. Then he turned to those who had been enchanted earlier. Everyone still remembers their seating positions at last night's banquet. Due to the damaged furniture, except for those who had no place, the rest returned to their original positions. This action created numerous suspicions for the victims and the medical practitioners. The place where the Ming martial artists were enchanted yesterday was the place where he had exchanged cups with Bai Yi. Could you smell the part that touched the mouth of the cup? The physician hastily took the item from Thien Pham's hand. With decades of experience, this was relatively simple for him. Of course, there was something very strange. It's unclear what it was, but Bak Trung Vu mentioned a poison called Duong Kui Phi. Could they have applied this poison to some of the cups of the enemy? Even so, how did the junior sect leader know? Transitioning to the private study of the sect leader of the Heavenly Devil sect, there was nothing to do. So, the father of the main character went to practice to avoid annoying incidents last night, and now that it's time, he stepped out followed by 2 subordinates constantly taking towels and fixing his robe. His sturdy, muscular figure was completely different from his outer appearance, appearing very calm. After changing, He allowed the attendants to go downstairs. The celestial court had gone straight to the secret chamber inside the palace. Earlier, this person had requested to bring the body of Makim into the pieces of skin of guardian fat 500 meters away, which was stored for preservation. Just by touching it, one can feel the Tao technique inside, which was very similar to the Tao technique of the other person. The sect leader murmured in his head that he appeared just before the user of the Tao at Zhejiang disappeared and also possessed martial arts far beyond his own expectations, causing him to be injured. I don't know why that image was so firmly imprinted in the sect leader's mind. He only thought about that. He was very angry. You dare to make me fall into hell? He thought this. Then Guardian France also hinted for his opinion. Understood. You just wait in the study, I understand. He asked the physicians to return and then take the martial arts alliance to Kim Duk. Suddenly, the voice of Bok Trong-vu from outside also sought permission to enter just in time. He ushered him into Manhwa Bok Trong-vu to visit the Grand Master without the need for your presentation. The investigation has been completed, and the cause of the mass hypnosis has been found. Shocked by the swift arrival, why didn't you let the Grand Master be curious? He pulled out evidence and saw the cup of wine, causing everyone to be surprised. The deity discovered a large amount of medicine in the hidden compartment of the cup, containing the poison of Duong Kui Phi, which indeed caused hallucinations. Due to haste, the Chief Justice did not have time to erase all traces. The Grand Master regretted letting inexperienced people investigate. Who discovered it? The doctor replied. It was the insightful Junior Grand Master, Min. If this drug is used, it will cause hallucinations. It is very likely that the person who came up with the idea is very knowledgeable about hypnosis. The deity also discovered a suspicious point. The amount of drug used to hypnotize people requires a large dose, but there was no issue with the wine container. Therefore, the Junior Grand Master suspected that it might have been tampered with. Before Bok Trong-vu could finish, the Grand Master ordered the Chief Justice to stop investigation. The Chief Justice knew immediately that there was an internal issue, so he acted accordingly. He planned to add suspicions of espionage and refrained from speaking further. Later, he personally informed the Celestial Realm of the matter. He sincerely admitted to hiding Bitgok at the direction of the Grand Master. Because of this, he planned to implement it. How did you know? It was fortunate that the investigation work continued until noon the next day, and the martial arts practitioners were delighted to be vindicated. Mo Long Khan determined that the demonic sect would never dare to act against the martial arts. This was due to protect the budding relationship between the two sides. However, the chief strategist did not think so. She had predicted many things, the main one being that the demonic sect wanted to dominate the martial arts world. They deliberately stepped back, possibly because the Junior Grand Master did not hide and chose the big picture. If this were not stopped, it would turn into a bloodbath. As Extreme Blade Sect said, it might be someone with a grudge against the demonic sect. Because they caused the martial alliance to owe a debt, they had to repay it. 4 days had passed since the attack on the demonic sect, and martial alliance had officially become allies. But due to years of grudges, many sect members were unhappy. Since the time was up, those who came sought permission from the Grand Master to return to China. The military advisor explained that there was an urgent matter to attend to, so they had to change their plans than expected. It turned out that this person was afraid of the internal strife within the demonic sect and the remnants of the Extreme Blade Sect. They acted quickly to prevent casualties. This was an invitation to the martial arts convention sent by our leader, Thien Lu Tien. He happily accepted the invitation. He also promised that if there was an organization, he would definitely participate. The Master Swordsman reminded the Grand Master that it was time to conduct the ceremony without delay. If so, we ask for permission to leave since we are also busy. Now, as he watched his comrades leave, Thien Lu Tien also had many thoughts. He was also struggling because he did not know where the remnants of the Extreme Blade Sect were. At the same time, in the Dark Ghost Sect, the subordinates of Thien Pham were very angry because their master made the Junior Grand Master without informing the people. Vuong Kant had deep cunning scheme felt there must be some hidden agenda, but the main issue we decided to announce to the outside world has been informed. Only the appointment of the Grand Master as the Junior Grand Master is still missing. He kept chewing over it because it was too uncomfortable. Does this mean the Grand Master intends to change his mind? The battle for the position of Junior Grand Master. Even the newly admitted members must undergo new procedures to reach that position. This could be changed just because the Grand Master was shaken by the Junior Grand Master's power. If the 6 great sects did not resist, he could do anything. Thane Pham knew about this, but he didn't seem to care much. He felt that his master didn't understand what he was thinking. Later, he planned to say more, but now was the best time to persuade the remaining members of the Dark Ghost Sect. We must continue to contact them more, but last night when I arrived, there was no one in the Dark Ghost Sect. Could it be that the other 4 sections have already taken action? Yes, just as you said. Half of what you said was wrong and half was right. The meaning of the Chief Elder's words is that the subordinates of the Grand Master have all done this, and half of the remaining members of the Dark Ghost Sect have joined the Sword Devil Sect and the Blade Devil Sect. Chu understands that the Grand Master is openly supporting those 2 sections. Clearly, he intends to obstruct the Junior Grand Master. Thane Pham had to speak up to explain to his subordinates that it wasn't just about obstruction, it was about restoring balance. He strengthened the power of those 2 sections and restored balance by restraining our power. Not disclosing the position of the Junior Grand Master to the outside world was also because the other 4 sections still had opportunities. They want us and the other 4 sections to fight each other. Why would he do this to the Chief Elder? He arrogantly said that the Chief Elder, being a longtime member of the sect, also understood. The Grand Master we know is ruthless when it comes to his bloodline. Blood honor doesn't exist. Everything is just a card to protect and increase his power. Indeed, because of power, even dignity doesn't matter to him. I want to ask everyone here a question. The main protagonist stood up and said loudly, "No matter what happens, everyone will still trust and follow me, right?" This statement surprised his subordinates. Now, you, the Grand Master, have made too many mistakes. I want to return the section to the era of the Heavenly Demon Founder's establishment. This means that I'm ready to confront those influential figures in the sect. Now, I want everyone to trust and obey my orders without hesitation. The number 1 subordinate was very enthusiastic. Even if the chief went down any path, I am willing to follow him unconditionally. Vuong Cat and Tamatrak also pledged eternal loyalty. All those present in the meeting unanimously obeyed Thane Pham's orders. Indeed, them very loyal subordinates. Now, what does the Junior Grand Master plan to do if we continue to confront the 4 great sects like this? It's very tiring. Anyway, we will have to withdraw all the plans made so far. Therefore, I want to restore the balance, so we have to abandon those plans. The protagonist's intention is that he himself will have to find a foothold to gain influence. So, he will go to the main hall of the Ma Long Truong sect to increase his power. The Chief Elder's plan is to connect with the Elder of the 9 Sword Sect and the sect leader of the Dreaming Sword Sect. Once they know, the protagonist will invite Hak Kiem and the 7th Elder to follow. Van Q looked reluctant but reluctantly spoke up, asking to go too. Thane Pham disagreed. Although he was the most harmful, his enthusiasm was doubled. The remaining subordinates are okay. You will go with me on this trip. Vuong Cat, on the other hand, asked for permission from the chief to take Bok Kai along for fun. After all, even the 2 of them together cannot guarantee his safety. Please be kind, as Bok Kai doesn't understand. Why do Hak Kiem and the 2nd Sword always quarrel? With arrangements made, Thane Pham went to the inner court of the Ma Long Truong sect. The sect leader was still studying history when his servant Fu urgently ran in to report. He mentioned the arrival of the Junior Grand Master, surprising him. He quickly called the steward to lead the guests to the guest hall and prepare to welcome them, absolutely not to be negligent. The whole group arrived at the rendezvous point for the meeting. Since it was his own home, Van Q introduced everything inside. "This is my house," he said. "Even someone like me without eyes can feel that this place is very beautiful. Why does your only pleasure involve tending to the garden?" Talking about various things, Van Yin, the 8th Elder, bowed respectfully. "Hello, Junior Grand Master." The main character also quickly bowed in response. Seeing his granddaughter, he wasn't very surprised. "Why are you still wearing a mask until now? I'll personally take you to the guest hall to have tea." "Let the servants do it. You shouldn't go," Van Yen said. He also reminded his subordinates, about a dozen of them, to go elsewhere to escort the Junior Grand Master. Before leaving, he also reminded them to be polite. Van Q explained that there was a twin sister, but didn't they plan to marry her to the Junior Grand Master like the Sima sect? This guy thinks too much to the point of being ridiculous. Then he disregarded minor details. Thien Pham was about to discuss with Van, but it seemed like some guests were getting impatient and eager. Although the servants tried to prevent it, they couldn't stop both Ta Kim Kyu and Bui Du Long from following the two elders to the Moon Palace. Thien Pham was angry because it seemed like now only he had the qualifications to compete with Van Elder. The elder apologized and asked to excuse himself for 5 minutes for a private matter. I beg to see the second and third elders and the young master first, he said. Since there are guests waiting for me, I ask all three to wait. What kind of nonsense is this, Junior Grand Master? You're here too, so how can I not meet the one who might become the sect leader? So I have to be polite. May I greet him for a while? Third elder and fourth elder. The third and fourth elders didn't need to agree and went to the ceremony right away, but the protagonist didn't bother to say anything. He just scrutinized his opponent. Moknglayet seems quite responsive. After all, they used to be peers, but now he's above him. Finally, he reluctantly greeted according to the rules. Unexpectedly, the Junior Grand Master also needed to meet Elder Van. Bu Diet Long asserted that he also came here to discuss business with the elder, but Van Yin was puzzled. Because I didn't receive any letters, he said. Why would you make things difficult for others like this? I sent a carrier pigeon to you not long ago. How could you forget? The elder was speechless. Didn't you tell me to think about it? Because of that statement, Thien Mokngayet sincerely came to see the elder's granddaughter. The elder couldn't refuse directly at that time. So I said I would reconsider, but they understood it differently. When it sounded related to marriage and such, Thien Pham hinted at the importance of both families' opinions in marriage matters. This statement seemed to help Van Yen understand. Indeed, I always respect the choice of the young lady. The third elder was resentful. No matter how important both sides are, can he refuse the Grand Master's son so bluntly? Van Q also didn't bother to hide her identity anymore and actively went out to respond to those rude people. Muknglayet didn't know what to do. Why was she standing here? Then Thien Pham's woman also revealed herself. No one could believe it. How could they not recognize the troublesome guy's face? Muknglayet was also impressed, not only by her beauty but also by her determination, which was no less than the strategist of the Central Plains. Nai Kiem and Ho Bong were the most surprised among them. After meeting the elders and the young master, who was Van Q, granddaughter of Van Yen, they couldn't believe it. She's a girl. Bak Kai became stunned, but that expression was nothing compared to the protagonist's biological sisters back when they were in the Devil Sect. He knows best what was like. He almost wanted to jump into the lake to escape. Unbelievable. Why didn't I notice in the Devil Sect? I didn't know your granddaughter was like this, and she still wears a mask. If it were me, I would let her decide for herself. The fourth elder patted his nephew on the shoulder. He was lucky to have a beauty in his hands just when the little girl wanted to meet the young master back in the Devil Sect. Have you 2 meters ago? That's great because I kept willing her offers. So, she said, if I become the Junior Grand Master, the first thing I'll do is expel the head of the Ma Long Truong sect from the sect. Luckily, the young master didn't become the Junior Grand Master. Van Q's father now looked embarrassed. Is it that you want to expel me from the sect? The third elder hastily made excuses. It's just a little misunderstanding due to youthfulness. Is there a problem if we care too much? Even Ta Kim Q spoke up to defend and show hostility. But that's an insult to the honor of the sect, so how could both not be angry? They channel all their internal energy to demonstrate dominance. Buitrat Long had to raise his voice to intervene and plead with both parties to stop, urge them to calm down. It's not that I don't understand the thoughts of the elder Van Truong. At that time, the words spoken by the young master of the celestial sect were still from a knave mind. What power could he have? Moreover, do you think within our sect, there is any faction that could easily confront the dragon head of the Ma Long sect? As far as I know, several years ago, Elder Van Truong always wanted to find a talented physician. Indeed, this old man also knows about the mental issues of Van Q's descendants. If his granddaughter and the young master of the celestial sect were to become engaged, we could use this as an offering. Clearly, this hits the crucial position of the Ma Long sect's leader. This will help him encounter the divine physician, and I will absolutely not retract my words. Why would you bring such a precious item as an offering? It's because there's no successor to the junior sect leader, so the remaining 4 sects have put forward Mukungayat as the skull. These words made Van Yen think a lot. Will the remaining 4 sects support the young celestial Mukungayat as the junior sect leader? But now Van Q is loyal to the earthly faction. But just with that jade, Van Vu will be able to cure his congenital disease. It's quite difficult to choose between the 2 grandchildren of the 3 elders. He wants Trung Thon absolutely. Like us, we brought what Elder Van Truong wanted. Who wins, who loses, it's already quite clear. You'll agree to the engagement of your granddaughter and the celestial young master. Van Q had already firmly held her man's hand and loudly declared her love for the earthly young master. Thus, in one day, she made everyone on both sides go from one surprise to another. Elder Van Truong couldn't understand anymore. The main character blushed because he had fallen in love with a daring woman. The Lord and the Lord have been advancing so fast. Van Q quickly transmitted the message that she only did it because she didn't want to marry Mukungayat. He also breathed a sigh of relief, but he was very happy inside. Then his eyes changed at the cowardly Phut Ma sect leader. He had been following the main character since the days of the demon sect until now, still unable to catch up. The main character, due to the nature of the earthly faction, often shown off, so he also played a few small actions to let that guy know where the limit was. He had everything stolen from him. A despicable guy. Not only that, but the Celestial also flashed a few bursts of anger and momentum in Mukungayat's heart, which rose as if about to erupt. Elder Yen noticed the danger enveloping him, so he immediately drew his sword towards the 2 remaining elders, who saw this and warned loudly. It was just a small guard who dared to point a sword at their necks. Who's that? He had shown his intentions against the junior sect leader. Ta Kim Kyu knew that the other 5 were not safe. Now only this grandson was left, so he had to keep him safe, but it seems that he has fallen into another trap again. The tree is too dense to do anything. So he vented all his anger on the sword. Yen Mok Ho, what's going on? It's just a guard, but why is the sword so steady in front of me? Finally, what's the reason? Tu Pham had obtained the position of junior sect leader, removing Vu Tran Guyan and the masters of the 4 great sects of Kup Dao Luk Vo Man. The remaining sects realized the danger posed by him because the sect leader had given him a new title in mockery instead of choosing Mukungayat as the heir just because he was the only candidate for junior sect leader with all 4 limbs intact. Seeing Yen Mok Ho's sword still pointed straight at Mukungayat's face, making him go crazy. The blow wasn't over, and he immediately cursed the 10 elders as despicable bastards. Bui Dulong was afraid because he remembered the death of Vu Tran Nguyen just because of the danger, and he also understood that Tu Pham would probably use this as an excuse. So he kicked him in the eye to signal to Kim Q to understand the situation here. Both were proactive, performing the rituals, begging for forgiveness for the rude attitude of the descendants, but perhaps they made it difficult for themselves when Tu Pham didn't care why we had to do that, right? Guard, deal with that guy quickly. Yen Truong Lao coldly ordered. Obeying the Lord, the 3 elders quickly ran to intervene to prevent him from screaming and also knock down the sword wielder Ha Thing Pham's family. Still confused. I don't understand what's going on. Once again, Yin Muk Ho rushed to kill him. Triat Long raised his treasure knife to clearly demarcate the boundary, but with just that, it only made the Maduyan sword sect leader even more interested. She actively stepped forward to strike directly at the 3rd elder. Both sides display a series of sword techniques and knife techniques. It can be seen that no one had more power than the martial arts guard, yet they had such strength. After all, who is she? While they were concentrating on fighting, a loud scream echoed, not from anyone present, but from the celestial sect's Moon Gaiet. At this moment, death was looming over him, and the one responsible was none other than the celestial Pham. Is it you who defies my orders? Without waiting for an answer, he continued, Stop. I won't marry anymore. Fortunately, those words saved him from almost losing his head as Mukungayat's head nearly fell to the ground. He breathed heavily, trembling with fear. I'll grant the sect leader whatever you wish, just please spare him, confessed the junior sect leader. I'll even have the precious gem returned. If that's what you desire, then hand over the jade scroll. Perhaps you can meet the divine physician. That may be so, but preserving his life is paramount, the celestial stated firmly. He quickly withdrew a scroll from his person and respectfully handed it over. Understanding your opponent's desires and fulfilling them is the way to gain what you seek, he said with a hint of disdain. Although young, the male lead demonstrated his cunning and resourcefulness. The three elder leaders recall the boasting when presenting the Jade Scroll. Elder Bui, you were truly insightful. You taught me a valuable lesson. It's knowing what your opponent desires and offering it that earns you worthy rewards, the Celestial Fam said, interrupting their thoughts. Feeling something amiss, the three elders became more wary. Suddenly, the Celestial Fam quickly moved towards Muknguyet's right arm. His face turned pale with incomprehension. He didn't cry out or resist, only silently observed. The suddenness of the attack caught even his subordinates off guard. The pain now began to intensify, spreading through Muknguyet, who cried out in agony. Ta Kim Kyu rushed to tend to her nephew's wounds. From the beginning, she knew Muknguyet was there. Yet still, he chose to act this way. Is there anything else you find dissatisfactory with me? Questioned the Celestial. No, nothing, replied the junior sect leader, grateful for the mercy shown. The fourth elder simmered with resentment, pondering silently. I must endure. It was Muknguyet's foolishness that caused this. Thankfully, he survived. The young master's condition isn't good. Let's request his leave. Although they gained nothing, they still wish to continue their competition. The junior sect leader apologized for the bloodshed. Your generosity will benefit your train, Vian. Hopefully, it aids Master Van Yen. Van Yen humbly accepted the treasure and responded to the Celestial. You're the benefactor of our clan. We'll support you until the end, concludes the Celestial. I still need your guidance on many matters, he added. Later, during the meal, the fourth elder, Van Vu, questioned why the junior sect leader concealed his identity when he's the one who saved him. Van Q and Van Vu spent much time reconciling this misunderstanding. Van Yen couldn't hide his regret upon seeing the affection between the junior sect leader and his niece. He knew he needed to observe them further. As the tale ended, the clan's head, Van Vu, came to greet the junior sect leader. He expressed gratitude for saving him when he was younger. Van Q and Van Vu were twins, born after their parents' death in Sichuan due to a faction ambush. Since then, Van Yen had raised them alone, albeit unsuccessfully. Today, the junior sect leader gave them hope once more. Thank you, said Van Yen, relieved as he watched his nephew interact. Although Van Vu was hesitant and awkward, the Celestial didn't seem to mind. Van Yen requested to examine his nephew's condition, and upon agreement, he approached Van Vu. This might hurt a bit, so bear with me, he warned before examining him. The sudden surge of energy started led Van Yen, who feared the Celestial was going to harm his nephew. Nano had conducted a preliminary examination of Van Vu's condition. Teen Pham understood that there were no divine physicians available. Only this was the only chance to heal him. First of all, to treat him, they needed to confirm the illness. The system requested Teen Pham's assistance. The first step was to conduct an MRI scan from the patient's palm. Then, the information board displays the condition of Van Vu's brain. The red dots indicate poor blood circulation, which leads to brain hypoxia. To cure him, they needed to remove dead cells and accumulate blood. Only then could the illness be cured.